their dream. Your sweet friend. This is Martell Fox of Layer for Talent, and she's helping people get their dream careers in Bitcoin. Welcome, Martell. Woohoo!
Thank you. Thank you, Valerie, for having me. It's a pleasure to be on this podcast with you. And thanks for all you're doing in the Bitcoin community to spread the love and positivity.
Yeah, totally. It takes a village, right? All of us have to kind of put our own unique little thumbprints of goodness on this sculpture called life. And also, of course, the Bitcoin community. So you're the former COO of IBEX. How did you get involved in, starting to connect people with their dream jobs in Bitcoin? Tell us about Layer for Talent and who you are and what you do and,
Yeah,
all the good stuff that people can find out about you.
sure. Thank you. So, yeah, the idea for Layer 4 Talent kind of came quite early in my Bitcoin journey. Prior to working at IBEX, I had been looking around at the companies in the space and who I could possibly work for. And I noticed a general lack of HR presence, or at least not
Mm.
publicly, not so visible. And I had a dream back then that, perhaps I could at some point help a lot of these companies and kind of scale my best skill set, which at the time was really in recruitment as a chief people officer and head of talent in the past. And then, yeah, I had to get experience in the space. So I ended up working with IBEX, chose them because of the strong company culture and also their work with Lightning, and thought it would be
Mm.
a great place to debut into this space, get some experience, learn a lot. And so that happened. I started there as a chief people officer, and things shifted around. I got offered the opportunity to become the COO, which was really awesome and a good way to test my skills. Through that experience, we did do one important recruitment, which was the CTO.
Mm.
And while I was recruiting the CTO, I just realized the caliber of candidates out there and how, yeah, there's a huge problem to solve when it comes to finding the right people and placing that right person in the company. So we made a great selection. Barrett Little joined IVEX and he's doing really well there. But there's a lot of other candidates that I thought like, wow, like if only I could help you get that dream job that you want. So after a few months later, just kept going back to this. And I think professionally, I was ready to do my own thing. Been working in team environments for a while and had thought I'd enjoy the freedom to start my own business. So then it was around April, I think, in 2023, started Layer 4 Talent, and it's been going really well ever since. So placing talents at amazing companies. And most importantly, every day I'm talking to Bitcoiners and people who want to make a positive impact on the world, the founders, the candidates. And it's a lot of positivity, it's a lot of motivation, and it's been really fun.
Oh my gosh. I'm just so excited for you and I love what you're doing and I love that you saw a gap in the the space, right? And you're like, how can my talents fill this up? So, what are you seeing out there right now is like a need? Like are there certain, deficits? Do we need more programmers? Do we need more HR? Do we need more marketing? Do we need more blah blah blah? Like is there anything that's like
Yeah.
heavy that we're like, we need to get people trained in this so that they can move the needle forward?
Yeah, great question. So there is a huge deficit, I think, on the whole sales marketing
Really?
side of these businesses. And that's because we've been in a bear market and we've
Mm-hmm.
had to cut down teams. And this is all across tech, but teams have had to be more lean and make some reductions and really focus on engineering. And now we're seeing
Mm-hmm.
things pick up a bit, as kind of anticipated. As the market's picking up, we're seeing more sales and marketing roles. So even for my own self and my prospective calls the last 2 weeks with potential clients, I've had a huge uptick in sales and social media, brand, marketing, growth type of roles.
Cool. And that's exciting. I mean, I joke about like as a creator, obviously, and I'm all about like how do we create interesting content for different audiences that can help them, on their unique Bitcoin journey. Whether you're a teenager, a grandma, a hedge fund person, an engineer, like Bitcoin, or a pupusa saleswoman in El Salvador, right? It's like, how do we create an onboarding experience that's user friendly for each person, where they're at on their journey, with their financial literacy, where they are. So I joke around about, Bitcoin's marketing department is the creators, right? And so it's like,
Yeah.
how do we align ourselves also with all of these different companies and initiatives so that we can, monetize the content in a way that's meaningful for all of us, and most importantly, get Bitcoin in the hands of everyone out there. So that's cool. So I like hearing that, like, this is something that is a need. I know there's a Murphy and Avi. There's several guys out there. They're looking to put together some Bitcoin content studios,
Hmm.
which is obviously marketing. So I'll link you up with them, and who knows, maybe you can have a little
Yeah.
peanut butter and chocolate action and make something good happen.
I know Avi. I
Yes.
didn't catch the other person that you mentioned.
Murphy. So he's
Murphy.
doing
Okay.
a BTC studio. So he did
Cool.
he's done tons and tons of videos, and he works with Aladdin at the trading cards, and he's done like the trailer when we were doing the cyber opera. He's a killer video producer and just amazing. And so it's just
Awesome.
cool to see people getting excited about this next
Yeah.
round of
And
education.
a lot of people like yourself, you've been putting in the work for a long time, even maybe during a bear market where Bitcoin is less viral.
Yeah,
And I'm seeing that start to pick up. And I think all that work that these creators are putting in is going to pay off. I have founders asking me, like, hey, who out there has a trusted Bitcoin brand? Who knows how to manage social media? And they don't want just any social media expert. They want
totally.
someone who can really talk the talk about Bitcoin and
Yeah.
understand and really engage with their audience.
Yeah, it's super important. I mean, obviously, when you're communicating, you can't just have somebody who's out there doing cookie cutter AI here and get your Bitcoin here.
Yeah.
It's really got to be people who are passionate about it, who understand it, and want to see it move forward. So I'm glad to hear that this is starting to get a little bit more traction, because I
Yeah.
think it'll create more opportunities, obviously, for different creators. How has your life changed since you've decided to be your own badass boss lady instead of, I mean, it's a lot, I know, being an
Yeah.
entrepreneur and taking the reins of your own destiny this way.
Yeah. It's changed tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the key word would be freedom, having
Mm-hmm.
more freedom over my life. So I've been working in startups maybe since I was about in my early 20s, or maybe 23, 24. And I've been a bit of a workaholic and just dedicate my whole life to the team. And I also had my debut into the startup world when I was living in France. So I also didn't
Oh,
have a strong social circle. It made sense for me to build that social circle at work. And I also worked in an awesome place with incredible people around. So it was wonderful. But I think since that time, I kind of set my life up that way, dedicating all my social energy, all my working energy to my job, my career. And I think through a few experience, like through some cycles of doing that,
mm-hmm.
sometimes I get burnt out. I get a bit stressed. I am a sensitive person, which is it's a good skill to have, but it's a double-edged sword, which means that when other people are having challenges, you're right there with them and you're feeling and experiencing everything. Now, when you're a chief people officer or a COO, it means that, some people like me would take home all of those challenges, all the problems, and you don't have a huge separation between that personal life and work life. So by the end, I think my cortisol was really high. Actually, I'm quite into like biohacking and
Yeah.
very into health. And my cortisol was really high, I think, my last couple jobs. And I think other people perhaps would have had a different reaction to it. But I also, with working remote, I'm taking home the work, constantly working. So starting my own business, I can tell I have to take another test, but I can tell that my cortisol's dropped. I'm less stressed. Now I
Wow.
really get to do what I love the most. I'm just focused on building these teams. I feel like I'm working with a lot of different companies too, which means they're extracting the best parts of me. They're using me as a coach and advisor, and it's really rewarding. So I would say that the key surprise would be I'm actually less stressed
Yes.
out than before. which was kind of the opposite advice that I was, coached on when I was getting started. But yeah, I'd say for other people that are thinking about starting their own thing, be brave and just go for it. The worst that could happen is you end up, in another job similar to the one you have now. The best thing that could happen is that life could even get easier because you're more aligned with what you should be doing.
Isn't that, oh my God, I love hearing this. Like, I know I'm an ultra empath and I suck up things. I'm like a little sponge and I have to practice all this energy, kung fu hygiene, like, watch out
Yeah.
and stay away from me. Or, oh, I got to go take a little bath of, get it all gone and reset into my own power, especially, I'm a single mom. I have two kids, so I suck up their energy all the time
Yeah.
too. I mean, I love them to pieces, but I'm like, Calgon, take me away. So I can relate to like that sensitivity and noticing that, and you really do have to be. And everyone's systems are different, right? Some people are just like, bring it on, I'm cool. They thrive in that
Yeah.
environment, and other people need a little bit more opportunities to have that breathing room and space. And so getting up every morning, I bet you're jumping out of bed like, woohoo, this is great. I get to go do my mission and I'm making a difference. And look, the world's better because I'm here.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also nice to have. I've always worked in companies where I had a lot of freedom. Yeah, to be clear on that, I was able to design my own schedule, work remote, work from wherever in the world. But it's another level when it's really now I can really design my days. I can have a really nice morning routine. I can have a really nice evening routine and kind of set better boundaries for myself than
Mm.
I ever have been able to, which is nice.
I love it. It's such a good tool to have is knowing how to set healthy boundaries because it translates into all of these different segments of our life, whether it's business, whether it's personal, whether it's your own health, um, it's not something that we're all taught at a young age. I think a lot of people, especially this generation, I see like, and I know I'm guilty. I'm the total guilty mom, but it's like, it's okay. Just do this, instead of like, it's because we want to all be liked. And
Yeah.
so, like, when it comes to that social thing or that leadership thing, a lot of times people do the things that they do because they want to keep the likeness factor there instead of like, actually, this is the tough love thing that needs to happen, whether it's with yourself or a team or whoever. So,
Yeah.
it's a good skill to have. So, I'm happy to hear you're cultivating it. Well, okay, so let's talk to the audience. Like, if anybody who might be listening who's excited about, how can I get into this industry? How can I use my skills? Like, what would you say to some new folks, whether they're content creators, whether they're engineers, developers, whether they're, CFO quality people, what would you say to folks who want to start getting involved into Bitcoin space?
Yeah. And I guess it really depends on who that person is. But the most generic advice that applies to everyone is I would say to be patient
Mm,
and to not settle for less and really know your value. So, uh, yeah, I think it's always best. It's a luxury if we can take our time to find the perfect job for us.
yeah.
Even if you're really close and they've offered you a job, like have another call and get all the questions that you need answered. And if it doesn't feel right, there will be another opportunity. And then, yeah, I think in the Bitcoin space, what I've noticed, even the time that I've been working, it's gotten to be increasingly competitive. I mean, we
Mm,
have a huge number of candidates and a small number of jobs. So I like to advise people, it's a bit of a tough love thing, but I advise people to have a low time preference when it comes to their career. And, perhaps you might be working in a field, an industry that's not related to tech. And you're a Bitcoiner, maybe you've known about Bitcoin longer than many of the people working in the space today, but you haven't had direct work in a technical company, in a startup. It's going to be very challenging for you to find a job. So there's things you can do to mitigate that, and you can still find your way to a Bitcoin job. And that's through building your personal brand, starting a podcast, blog, doing some things to show you have some proof that you're involved in the industry and you know what you're doing. And you have some skills that are applicable, like marketing and branding. If that's not the case, I usually advise people to try to first work in a startup and then work in Bitcoin later. And if you're doing some of these things like engaging in the community, having your personal brand, it can really pay off to wait rather than, let's say you are in the military and you have a really well-paid role and you want to work in Bitcoin and you've been involved in Bitcoin or know about Bitcoin for a long time, but you don't have a skill set that directly translates to a lot of the job postings. Rather than taking a job that's lower than your suspected level or what you would wish to have and have to kind of grind while not getting paid a lot, I would suggest in looking into military startups, for example. There's going to be tons of jobs for you where you would come in as an expert and a high value expert. You would get paid more and you wouldn't have to kind of stoop lower and grind. Same applies if you're a realtor or a nurse. Look at real estate tech, look at medical tech. These types of companies, you can find them on lists, just whatever search engine you prefer, and do some research. And yeah, I would say then in the meantime, connecting with the Bitcoiners like through Twitter, the Nostr communities, leaning into kind of the latest and greatest of technology. Another thing too, if you are, let's say you've been seeking a role for a while and you haven't found one, maybe try looking at how your profile is measuring up. Perhaps you're lacking some more recent skills. It's a good time to upskill. So anytime you're between jobs, it's a good time to learn like what's the latest and greatest technology. So AI, take a class.
How are you seeing AI in this space, and how are you seeing it complement and also displace people?
So generally, I'm seeing that a lot of companies are wanting to have an AI strategy, talking about it, and fewer actually have it. So that's a really great opportunity for candidates to take a couple courses, take a Python course, machine learning course. There's a lot of free resources out there. And you can, in a few months or less, if you're really dedicated, become somewhat of an expert on AI. I mean, AI has been around for a while. The startup I worked at before IBEX was an AI startup, but today is very different. I think in the last year, if we look around at who the AI experts are, a lot of them have gotten involved within the last year. So that's a good sign. That means anyone can learn anything pretty quickly. Totally. It's a chance as a candidate to really up your resume and then come in to a company with a really high value skill that everyone would appreciate.
Yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, both of my kids, of course, use ChatGPT for their homework, and every kid does, and I'm just like, that's one tiny little speck of how you can utilize this technology to make your life easier and to become more competitive and have an advantage over others in this workspace out here, So I think it's a super important thing. Let me ask you this. So we're talking all the nuts and bolts and nitty gritty. Like, obviously culture fit is a huge deal when you're hiring, and as a business owner, you want to make sure you're having great culture fit. And certainly as a team member, you want to make sure that the company's a culture fit for you. I think you and I both understand to, X degree what the culture of Bitcoin is, so for people who are new to this, obviously my podcast is Bitcoin for Peace, because I have this overarching philosophy that, we need love, we need music, we need all that great stuff. And we also need financial means to make a peaceful planet, because if we don't, we have war, and we have never ending war. And many other things, obviously, because of the corrupt fiat system. What would you say to people about making sure they know themselves clearly so that they align themselves with a company that fits their values and their culture?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's just as important from the candidate perspective as it is for the company. So, yeah, I think I've noticed in my own experience when I was a lot younger, I'd apply to any job that it looked like I was loosely qualified for. And some jobs I was not qualified for. And, I'm applying and wasting their time. But I still, as funny as it is, experience that today when I'm reviewing applications. So it seems like everyone does it. But as you mature, you start to narrow in as like, okay, rather than find 10 companies that I could apply for, what's the one company that makes the most sense? And you kind of go from there and have a very narrow search. I think this also pays off in the way you apply. Like, I'd advise never to just randomly click on LinkedIn and send direct application. They have these instant clicks. And the least amount of effort you put in, or the less amount of effort you put in to your job application, the less likely you're going to get the job. So I'd advise to really study, choose a couple companies, really study their culture, watch videos of their CEO talking, watch videos of their teammates, and take a look at their presence online, their posts on LinkedIn, look at their values and mission page, and find one that inspires you. And then when you apply, you kind of write within that application how you're connected, what's your story in relation to those same values. And that's going to make you stand out as a candidate as well. And of course, it should all be, ringing true for you. You should genuinely be inspired and share that with them. But I think that that's probably a paramount strategy to actually finding a job that you're going to be happy with. If you end up just, chasing maybe the highest salary, and you get involved in the company and it looks like they're not having the same values as you, you're not going to be happy.
Yeah, totally. Can you give an example? Like, obviously, like you just mentioned, it's very competitive. You've got stacks of resumes and people, there's more people than there are positions. What are you finding, if somebody's got, X qualifications that are pretty aligned, they've got X mission statement that's pretty aligned, like what is a differentiator between somebody getting selected perhaps and maybe somebody not getting selected?
Yeah. And I would say generally in a startup, things are pretty loose, right? We aim to find the dream candidate. However, the best candidate for the job might end up being someone who has, 4 out of the 5 necessary skills, but then they bring in, these other bonus things that we didn't expect. So I work specifically in recruitment and headhunting. So it's quite different than just accepting applications. So if you're not actively recruiting outbound, doing outreach, trying to contact candidates, you're just accepting applicants. In that position, you're kind of forced to just hope that you're going to get a couple people that actually fit the job description. That's not good. That's why we recruit. So we flip the script. We go chase the candidates. We find as many people who fit the criteria as possible. Mm-hmm. And then at that point, what decision is left to make is a culture decision. Cool. You choose based on, who do I have a meeting with on my calendar and I'm really looking forward to talking to them? Who in the interview taught me something new? Even when you're hiring for people who report to you, when I hired, at one point I had a team of 17 people reporting to me. Wow. And I hired each one of them. And every time I was looking for people who would teach me something new and make me feel like, oh, they know a bit more than me. And that's what I was chasing. And I think that's a great philosophy to build a team. You want to hire people who bring in knowledge you don't have, no matter how senior you are. Even if you are the CEO and you're looking to hire an intern that teaches you something. So I think, culture fit is paramount. It's so important. And the most successful companies realize that. That's why they have such a strict value system that they apply throughout the organization. So, yeah.
I think that's so cool. I know I love thinking in terms of like, what are you learning from your interviewees and your candidates, right? You want a team that's smarter than you. That's the whole reason you're having a team. It's not because you can do everything. It's like, get people who are, better qualified in their certain areas. So I think that's super cool. How has, let's talk about just Bitcoin in general, right? Obviously right now we've got, these ETFs just got approved. Everyone's going crazy thinking it's such a greatest, thing that's going to happen. How do you think Bitcoin's going to be shaping the culture of peace around planet Earth in the next 5 years?
Wow, big question. How will Bitcoin change the culture of peace around the next 5 years? I think I predict that we might have a bit of a rough takeoff to that. I think I've already seen a couple headlines recently. I don't know if this is real or not, but it was regarding the ETFs. And it was something that was like, now that the ETFs are here, you can invest in climate destruction. And I think it
Yeah,
was
I saw that from Greenpeace
Greenpeace.
USA.
Yeah. So I
Another
think
nonsense
we're
piece.
going to
Yeah.
start with some FUD, a lot of FUD. And I'm hoping my greatest hope would be by 5 years from now, we have a better awareness of what Bitcoin is.
Yeah.
And people aren't thinking it's so damaging for the environment or damaging for the environment at all. People by then hopefully will have realized that it's a positive thing for the environment. It's a way we can use stranded energy and optimize, accelerate, have a really bright utopian future. So I think better resource allocation is going to bring a lot of peace and a lot of benefit to people's everyday individual lives. But I'm not a psychic. We'll see. I think it, as I said, my intuition is it might be a rough start to get there. We've got a lot of unraveling of FUD. And then hopefully by 5 years, we're just baseline, like all understanding a little bit more about Bitcoin.
I know. I look at it, a lot of people always talk about it like, oh my God, the internet was so scary 20 years ago or 25 years ago. And it's ubiquitous now. And it's not like, oh my God, we're having a conference on the internet. And what, it's like, who
Yeah.
cares? Everybody's using it. So I mean, I think it's obviously different technology. This money technology is different because it's so, the incentives to keep fiat alive by these small little power structures, these central banks and these governments and the other banks that feed into that are so malicious, and so they're not there for the betterment of humanity. They're there for the betterment of their own institutions and their power, to keep the power in these little tiny places. And so I think there's going to be a battle for sure. I don't believe that this is some kumbaya, yay, everyone's a Bitcoiner now. Let's all go take some acid and hang out. Even though I want us to do that. But I feel like it is going to be a road. I mean, have you ever been in a position in your life, and because I have you ever been in a position in your life financially where you felt that you were having some mental and physical, emotional, spiritual health issues because of your financial situation?
Yeah, I would say so. I guess to put it simply, I think it was good experience for me to be broke at different times in my life because it pushed me to grind. I started, gosh, it's a really funny story how I started working. I could tell that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started working at around 15 or 16. It was 16. And my parents kind of cut me off and I had to start working. So I learned to drive. I got a driver's license, permit, then driver's license, and was pretty reckless. I was speeding all the time and I was getting tickets. And I had, I've also been a saver. I think that's like a culture within my family is like being frugal and saving. So I did have savings, like all my birthday money's saved. And, I was already investing in the stock market, thanks to my dad by 16. But I got
Nice.
cut off because I got so many speeding tickets and I burned through all my funds. And then I got one final speeding ticket, which if I had been, I think 18, it would have been really problematic. And my license was getting taken away. And so I had, this newfound freedom, very short lived, was, taken away from me. And it, after tapping out all my funds, I went to my dad thinking like maybe he would pay my speeding ticket for me. And he said, no, you need to get a job. And I just thought, what? Like, what? I was shocked in my small world that I was living in. Eastside Tony asked what kind of car. I had a Celica with subwoofers. I thought it was really cool. And so I didn't think I really wanted to get a job. None of my friends were working. And my mom's quite a character. I hope you meet her someday. But she was like, oh, you should go to court and fight it. And I'm thinking like, okay, yeah, we'll give it a try. And so I go to court and I'm, dressed in a blazer. I'm very serious and professional. The people going in and out before me are like in pajama pants, and they're going to their court dates. So I speak with the judge, and of course I had no argument. Like I don't know how many miles over, but this is a bad one, and I had been a repeat offender, and so the judge was not sympathetic. But I had observed in the people that went before me, some were able to ask for community service for a lighter punishment or lighter fine. And so I asked for community service. And at the time, I just thought like I was winning one over on them so badly and fooling them, because I loved community service. And the option was to volunteer at the animal shelter. So I was like, yeah, of course I'll volunteer with the animals and, get out of this scot-free. And so I walk out of the courthouse with that, and I thought like I won and I was the smartest genius in the world. And then I go to the animal shelter, like, I don't know, within the next week or so, and I'm ready to walk dogs and pet cats and have a good time. And I have to wear actually an orange jumpsuit. And I had to go around and scoop dog poop out of all of the like cages and fenced areas. And when I finished, it was a no-kill shelter, which was awesome. And they're still around here locally. But when I finished walking through, I'm like, okay, I'm done. And I was disgusted. I was like, why did I do this? I was hating my life while doing it. Then I finish and I say, okay, now I'm done. I'm thinking like, at least let me go on a walk with one of these dogs now. And they asked me to just go start over again, because now the dogs have gone again. So it was one of the worst days. And the whole time I'm in this orange suit with other people doing community service. I'm 16. I'm thinking like, oh, once my parents find out I've been subject to this, like my dad's going to pay that parking ticket for sure. And so I go home and I cry, and my dad laughs and says like, no, you have to get a job. And I said, like, there's no way I'm going back to that animal shelter and picking up more dog poop. I'm going to go get a job. So I ended up getting a job. I worked with one of my best friends at a golf course, and it was an awesome job. And then that freedom came back. I got, money, independence, got my license back. So long story short, but I've been working ever since. And it was a good experience. I've had other experiences as well. Like when I moved to Barcelona after college, I was teaching English, just barely scraping by financially. And those times were really good to make you appreciate the value of your work, appreciate working, and understand how to save and be frugal so that you can have a good lifestyle later.
It's oh my God, what I love your story. That's so great. I mean, I think a lot of us can relate to different levels of that type of story where it's like you get that consequential learning. Obviously, that's the
Mm-hmm.
best way for us to learn, because we're like, I'm gonna get out of this, or
Totally.
and then it's like, nope, you're gonna get the lesson and you're gonna keep getting it until you get it, kind of deal.
Yeah.
I think that's so funny,
Story of my life too.
but I know, right? But it's like when you're in the middle of those experiences, they really leave this indelible print on your
Yeah.
psyche and on your soul, and you're just like, if not that everybody's perfect, and sometimes you have to keep repeating the same lesson,
Yeah.
right? Because that's called being human. But a lot of us are just like, whoop, don't ever want to do that again, and it's just, but unfortunately, there's different types of consequences that we have to suffer. Some of them are, just picking up poop. Others are, health issues, divorce, hospital, court, all the stuff, right? And so it's like, if money is not a part of our life that's a healthy part of our life, that we value, like you said, valuing our own self-worth and not settling for less, and then putting that proof of work in, up leveling your skills constantly, you're going to run into those situations where you might have to compromise, over compromise, or you might have to settle because you didn't take that time to really try to grow and develop yourself and be in the discomfort zone and not just la la la, I'm in happy land. And again, I can relate so much. So, but
Yeah.
but I think about people who suffer and continue to not get the message,
Hmm.
and that can lead to obviously addiction. It can lead to other, whether it's food, whether it's alcohol, whether it's sex, gambling, you name it, right? And so a lot of people go in this cycle of trying to ease their discomfort, and then it goes into something that's short term, but then it becomes long term, and then it really messes their life up, right?
Yeah.
And so,
Do you
you know,
think it's like for me when I observe that, and I think it ebbs and flows. We have bits of that in our life at
yeah,
times, but when I see it in others and myself, I think it's like attributed to negative thinking at like the
mm-hmm,
very core seed of it. And you're trapped in this, like, it's not going to work out. I'm not working well. Like all this negative talk to
yeah,
where you don't get out of the comfort zone. You don't try anything new because you don't believe it's worthwhile. You just lose belief in anything positive happening, which is a really sad place to be. I've been there.
yeah.
I have a good friend in that space right now. And it's, yeah, you just have to be patient and keep encouraging people to be positive. That's why I appreciate you so much. And,
Ah,
you do your show, but like in real life, you're everywhere you go. You're just radiating positivity and reminding people to be positive. And I think that's the key for growth. It's a key for everything. It's a key for moving forward in life is, yeah, reframing the way you're thinking to open up opportunities, open up to goodness coming into your life.
yeah, I agree. Do you have any tips or tricks or hacks for people listening that you do, that if you find yourself playing the old negative record, that you're like, "Ah,
Yeah.
scratch that motherfucker.
Yeah.
Let's play something good over here."
Yeah. And I, weird method, but I try to like dissociate from myself as much as I can and think of myself like as two people. And there's the
Hmm.
friend Martel, and then there's like someone who's been a bit of like a not a good friend. Uh, Um, so yeah, the good friend Martel would be saying all the positive things. And if someone, the bad version of me, said something negative about me, my best friend Martel version would say, like, what? Why are you even friends with this person? Like, kick them out of our life. And I think it's easy to kind of select your friends to make sure you're around positive people who
Yeah.
support you. It's also important to do that selection within yourself. You have a negative self, and you can excommunicate it. You can exile that negative self out of your life. So yeah, in short, try to like be your own best friend, and
I
think
love that.
about yourself as a friend to yourself. And yeah, if anyone was talking badly about one of my friends, I would think they're insane, and I would have them get lost, and I would make sure my friend knows that it was absolutely not true and not to think that way. So we have to do that justice for our own self. I think other tactics would be like if, and this is when I had really darker times in the past, in my earlier 20s, but very positive times these days. But in the past, I would be talking a lot of negative things about myself, and I would just try to, every time I would catch myself say something negative, I do a battle and I think of 3 positive things about myself to combat that. And it sounds
Nice.
like trivial work, or like, sometimes this negative speak in your head is just like ongoing. So it's hard to like pinpoint it and say like, hey, now here's the 3 positive, but you can do it. And I feel like that made a huge difference in my life. That led to a big breakthrough of positivity for me,
Nice.
was, just having that, because at a certain point, then you just get tired. You're not saying the negative things anymore. You're just thinking the positive things. And yeah, it can be a good strategy. I recommend.
I love it. To me, I think of, our everything we consume, our consumption model is code, right? Our food is code, our words are code, the people
Mm-hmm.
around us, it's code. And so if we're coding ourselves with something positive, then we're going to have positive experiences inside. We'll have positive chemical and biochemical reactions. Huge, big deal,
Yeah.
And um, I, I, I think what's so important, like you said, you have control over those things. It's not something that you have to go outside of yourself and, oh, I'm hopeless and helpless. I need someone else to do this for me. It's like that's your own internal
Yeah.
power. When you say yes and tap into that truth, then you have the ability to shift and, write your own code,
Yeah,
and yeah, I think it's so cool.
love
That's
that.
so cool. What role has, you said you're a biohacker. I love that. Me too. I mean, it's just like a never ending rabbit hole too, like
Yeah.
Bitcoin. What's the most, do you have anything recent that you're like, whoa, that's so cool. I just found this out about XYZ that you can share?
It's experimental.
Yeah.
It's called methylene blue.
Okay. I've heard
And
of this.
have you
Yep.
heard it? I've been taking it. So my primary health philosophy is like really bringing it back to the ancestors as far as
Mm,
like diet and like getting physical activity,
yeah.
also the way I'm thinking. But yeah, this isn't exactly natural. So my diet is 100% very natural, no additives, no words I can't pronounce. Very ancestral eating. But then methylene blue is this chemical they've synthesized, I think, in the early 1900s in Croatia. And it's a blue dye. So it is used in hospitals often for different things. It's also used to put in the blue drops in the fish tanks and other, I don't know, like water, I don't know, in like a fountain or a pool or something to give the blue effect, but it also kills parasites like in those fish. So the reason
Okay.
how I came across it was for the benefit of healing mitochondria. So it has an insane effect on your mitochondria. It basically puts them into overdrive and allows them to shed uh, dead or underperforming cells and create new ones,
Uh-huh.
which is pretty awesome. I have mitochondria levels that I really want to improve. It's maybe the most important thing in my health right now.
Hmm.
I had a grandparent have Alzheimer's and dementia, and I know it can be like yeah, something that is passed down through family. And
Yeah.
in my family, I see it affecting women especially. So I'm aware that my mitochondria health score is actually lower than what I'd like it to be. And this kind of scares me. So yeah, I'm doing everything
How
I
do you measure
can.
your mitochondria? Is there a
I did a
test?
test of, it's called Viome. I did this
Viome.
test and I got a second one. It's VIOME. I got a second one and I have to do the whole test again. But it measures quite a few health scores. It gives you also a biological age, which is really interesting. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It also tells you a lot about your gut health and like what foods are best for your gut. For example, I used to eat a spinach. I used to be vegetarian a long time ago. I used to eat a spinach salad every single day and thought it was like really awesome for me. And then through testing my gut health, I understood that my body's not cooperating well with the uric acid that's in something like spinach. And it's actually not beneficial for me. And there's other foods that I should be eating instead. So I really like that test. I think there's plenty of others out there. And yeah, methylene blue, we'll see. It could be placebo, but I'm feeling like it's pretty good. Uh, I don't drink coffee or tea, and I feel like that methylene blue is giving me a little bit of energy.
And so it's giving you different types of energy. And obviously, mitochondria is super important. I know when
Yeah.
I'm waiting for something to happen, like I bounce. Like I went to some Tony
Mm-hmm.
Robbins stuff years ago, and they were talking about all these different techniques to like get your mitochondria moving. And that's why some people,
Cool.
they have those like little mini trampolines, like the really small
Wow.
ones, and people will just bounce on them. And it's supposed to like shake up your, sorry, it's like shake weight. Oops. Do you remember the
Yeah.
shake weights?
Yeah, I do. I didn't know that's what those mini trampolines were for, but I guess like any exercise is going to be beneficial. That's cool.
I know. It's like, do you know, oh, come on, pleb, Dr. Cruz,
Yes.
Have you listened to some of his stuff on Huberman Lab?
Yeah, I have. And
And he's a
he's
Bitcoiner too. I want
located
to
in
get
El
him on the
Salvador, I
podcast.
think.
He's in El Salvador now?
I think so. I heard someone recently that I talked to, they went to his house. Maybe it's not El Salvador. Maybe it's somewhere else. Maybe I'm
Jack
doxing him.
Cruz. Yeah. Oh my God,
Yeah.
that's so cool. Yeah, we got to get him on the show because I liked my brain was like falling apart trying to understand everything he said. I'm like, I
Yeah.
gotta listen to this 10 times.
And so one thing that he talks about is like the light, like it's good to get the morning
Yes.
light and that's good for the mitochondria. I'm actually doing also red light therapy. Have you ever tried that?
I haven't tried it yet. So
Yeah.
what's been your results on that?
I think it's pretty good. I'm doing it for like preventative against seasonal depression. And then
Mm-hmm.
actually, so I've been doing it the last couple years and I ramp up during the winter time.
Okay.
And also going back to methylene blue, from what I've read from all the weird experimenters like me, that basically the pair together, so methylene blue with the red light therapy, really helps everything move forward quickly, getting rid of the cells, giving energy to the cells. But for me, so red light therapy, it's really great for your skin, gives you energy, healing mitochondria, and also helps you start to improve your mood somehow. And I've noticed that, or maybe it's just I've matured and I can understand the world a bit easier and I'm less dramatic than the past years. But I feel like seasonal depression was something I always experienced. So yeah, in some years I was able to chase the sun and be a digital nomad and spend my winters in sunny places. But now I'm also wanting to be home more, and a good way to counteract the cold months is doing some red light therapy. So I go to a place in the town over from me a couple of times a week, and you just sit in a kind of it would be a bed with the lights on the top and the bottom, kind of like a tanning bed
Like a
would
tanning
be.
bed, but not like
Yeah.
so you don't get like burned or anything. Like it's
No,
just light.
no.
You're just absorbing some different things of light.
Yeah.
I know listening to Dr. Cruz about all the light stuff because he was just like I remember there was some episodes he was talking about thinking like, oh, I'm in California and there's lots of light there, but then there was so much pollution or something
Oh,
was there, and so the good light wasn't getting to the people, and so they were still having some, whatever the issues were that were being caused by that. And I was like, oh, I didn't real, just stuff you don't know. And
yeah.
obviously it's like a constant, never ending evolution of the understanding of how we operate. Like what's our human operating
Yeah.
system? You know what I mean?
It's
And it's like,
fascinating.
so when people get so attached to like, this is the only way and you have to, it's like, yeah, for now. And if it works for you, great. And, I think nutrition and wellness are some of the most controversial subjects because
Hmm.
you and I are totally different genetically. We're different
Yeah.
where we were brought up. We're different with our trauma. We're different
Hmm.
with energy. Every little thing is different, right? And
Yeah.
so to sit and go, here's what works for everyone is it's nonsensical to me. But what is so sexy and yummy about Bitcoin is it's just the same. It's the same for everyone. There's
Yeah.
nothing different about it, and that's one thing that I think it's so of everything on earth other than nature and Bitcoin. Those are two things that seem to have a consistent operating system that you can count on, like you can count on the sun every day. I mean, for
Yeah.
now, at least for however many millions of years we get lucky to have this planet. Um,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I love it. I'm so excited. I have a doctor's appointment this afternoon with like a hormone doctor because
Cool.
I'm I'm old, Martell. I'm in menopause, so
I'm
so I
sure your
have.
biological, if you did this test, I'm sure it'd be pretty low compared to
No,
what you.
I know my biological mental age is low. Um, I still think I'm 15, maybe I think I'm 16
It's
actually
good.
because I want to drive.
We should
Um,
always stay young at heart.
totally, dude. Okay, so where can everybody find you? But before we tell everybody where to find you, I want to ask you, just any last minute kind of things that you think, you have some tips or words of wisdom for whether you're a company out there who wants to come find Layer for talent and, start headhunting through you, or if you're somebody who's looking for a new career, how would you, what would you suggest to them so that they can get a little legwork done before they reach out to you?
Yeah. So for a company, I would say, if you want to hire top talent, definitely use a recruiter. it's often that the most talented profiles don't use job boards because they have a job and they have 15 people like me in their inbox asking them for an interview. So it's competitive to get really great talent. Really great talent is going to create a really great company. So it's quite simple. That's why recruitment exists.
Yeah.
And then for job seekers, I would advise to be bold and brave and courageous, and don't settle for less. Know your worth. I've heard something out in the ethos of Bitcoin, like volunteer or work for free for a while. I really am quite against that as an HR person. You have to be quite careful. Also, as a company, it can be illegal to ask that of people, depending on where you are. And I think we're shifting as an industry. We're becoming more professional. So if you're in that position, I think if you're going to put in work for yourself. Like start that blog, start writing on Substack, start that podcast. Make cool memes. Use a tool like CapCut, like upskill. Put in that work for yourself and your own brand, while also mining fiat in your fiat job. And then once you have enough value created there, it's going to be a lot easier to be seen and valued by these Bitcoin companies. And if you are in the position to grind and do something akin to volunteering or working for a company and they're not in a position to pay you, at least try to get equity, because that will make them value your work more. If we're giving work for free, it's psychological. People won't be able to value it as much as they should. So yeah, that's a little tip. I think Babes Who Bitcoin commented that on our Twitter thing, or wanted to have a little advice there, and I'm going to reach out to her and talk to her about it. But yeah, other advice, back to being bold, I would say if you've applied to a job, find the person on LinkedIn, find them on Twitter, the hiring manager, the operations person, HR person, contact them, let them know, and ask them how it's going with your application. Find a phone number, give them a call, and hit the pavement. Do all the classic stuff that I think, these are things that put you on the top of the stack. And these are busy people that you're contacting. If they don't respond, wait a week and reach out to them again. They're just busy. If you don't get a response, it doesn't mean that they don't like you. It doesn't mean that they don't want to hear from you. It just means that they've got other things on their mind, and you're actually doing them a favor by being proactive and trying to meet them where they are and reminding them that you're there. So yeah, last words of
So
advice:
you
be brave.
just for the word of wisdom. So every week you think, I just because some people are like, I don't want to be too annoying, but I don't want
Yeah,
to
not
not
every
reach
week, but a
out. Yeah.
week. Let's say you send a message and you don't get a response. Follow up a week later.
Okay.
Okay. And then if you still don't get a response, wait some time, maybe try contacting a different person on the team. Find a way. One of the cheekier things I've done, and I've also had it done when I've been working in companies, would be going to their chat bot and chatting with their customer support and saying like, oh, hey, I actually just applied for a job and I haven't heard back yet. Can you ask about my application? Here's my name and my email. And now another team in the company is aware that someone hasn't gotten back to you. So they're going to post it in their channel like, hey, we had Valerie contact us today. Have we looked at her profile? They're going to see you as proactive. They're going to see you as a person who knows how to get a conversation started, and they're more likely to get back to you. So don't be afraid to try creative things and cheeky things to try to get the attention of the people you want to talk to.
Cool. I love that advice. And okay, so everybody who's listening, if you can't see the screen, you guys can go to layer4talent.com, and you can also go find Martell on Twitter at Martell Fox, Martell Fox, and also Layer for Talent on Twitter. What's your big dream for 2024, Martell?
Big dream for 2024. I hope by the end of 2024, my personal dream would to have a larger team at Layer 4 Talent. So actually, I would love to announce that I've had a teammate join me, my first teammate,
Yes.
Thunder. She's the head of talent for Strike. She'll be working with them on an interim basis and is joining me as a talent partner. And she's
Yay.
absolutely amazing and exactly the type of person I want on my team. Like, she inspires me already to do better at my job. And she's, already feeling like the right-hand person that's really complimentary to me. Plus, she understands my world a lot. We have a similar experience working internally in startups. So yeah, I'm very pleased with that. She's awesome. Hey, Thunder, if you hear this, thanks for being my teammate.
That's
And
so cool.
yeah, I look forward to building Layer 4 talent with her, expanding the brand. And by the end of the year, who knows, maybe we'll have another teammate.
Woohoo! Yay, Martel. I'm so excited and so happy for you.
Yeah,
I love what you're doing. It's so, so, so important. And I think it's underlooked to at some degree, but not anymore. I mean, I think this is something that obviously you have to have great talent to make great companies, to make excessively beautiful impact on this wonderful planet of ours. So
absolutely.
thanks for being so wonderful at what you do and bringing people together and being a matchmaker, headhunter, goddess of goodness.
Thank you so much, Valerie. And thank you for all the positivity you always are sharing. And I'm feeling really great after this call. You're amazing at what you do. And yeah, hope to see you soon. Are you going to Madeira actually?
I'm going to
Okay.
Madeira and I'm going to go to your
See
event.
you
And
there.
are
Yeah.
you coming to the ladies event? We're going to be doing
Yes.
another ladies event.
Yes.
Um, and so, yeah, so we're going to have all sorts of fun stuff going on. So let's get,
Perfect.
do you want to plug that right now? Like plug your
Yes.
event in
Well, let's
Madeira.
plug both events.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the ladies brunch is in the morning on the 29th.
Yep.
At some time. If you need an invite, just contact Valerie or I,
Yeah,
and
it's from
we'll
10 to
give you
10. I think it's
details.
10 to 12 maybe
Okay.
that we're doing it. I got to look at the timing, but
Yeah.
yeah, or it might be a little
And
earlier, but
then
um
from 3 p.m. to around 6-ish, we are doing a startup pitch day. It's called The Rise of Atlantis. And
that sounds
startup
great.
founders will be presenting their dreams, their projects to a board of judges, and a winner will be selected. There will be prizes for the audience. It should be very engaging for the audience. And if you are someone who has the idea to start your own business someday, it can be a really great event to attend and get some ideas, get some inspiration from these brave founders who are activating their dreams today. They're not waiting till tomorrow. So it should be a very inspiring event and a great time. And then the next day we have the conference. So it will be happening the day before. And please join us if you're going to be in Madeira.
Here, let me put up bitcoinatlantis.com. I think that's the right website, right?
Yeah.
Bitcoin Atlantis. Yeah, you guys go there. It's going to be such a, oh my God, what an event, right? I'm like, wow, I'm so grateful to get to go. I feel like, thank you.
Yeah, me
Um,
too.
it's going to be so fun. And I love what you're doing. And like what you just tapped on really quick, it's like, even if you just have this little seedling of a dream as an entrepreneur or a creator or anything to get involved in this space, like, a year ago, 2 years ago, we're the ones in the audiences going, I want to be on stage, or
Yeah,
I want to be the presenter, or I want to have a plan or a job or any of that. Like we all started out having that tiny seedling of a dream. Okay. And so
true.
every one of us, there's no exception. And so don't think that because you're not where you think you need to be, you shouldn't go and give it a shot,
And if you feel you're not where you need to be, go surround yourself with people who will help you get there.
Totally, dude. The what do they say? You're the sum of the five people you spend the most time with,
I've
and
heard that. Yeah,
it's true. It's so true. So be selective and curate badasses in your tribe, like Martel. Yeah.
like you.
All right, everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And make sure you guys, number one, go follow Martell Fox on Twitter and everywhere else and go check out Layer for Talent. And I'm going to be starting to check this out. I'm doing this. You're going to laugh. The world's sexiest newsletter. Let's go.
Cool. What's that about?
Well, I love sexual empowerment. I love psychedelics. I love Bitcoin. I love personal development and wellness. And I'm just like, I want to make things more interesting in people's inboxes. That's not just a little like, how are your KPIs doing? And here's how you can up level your marketing.
Those get
And
an instant delete.
I know. it's so boring. And I'm like, unsubscribe, unsubscribe,
Yeah.
unsubscribe. So I just want to have people have a little bit of juiciness in their inbox that is meaningful and fun, has purpose, and then also, of course, has some educational components too. So
Yeah.
I want to be bringing different experts in these subject matters and having them just give little tidbits, and then we can have little jokes, kind of like Tim Ferriss's 5 Bullet Friday, but with a little bit more juiciness. And I love Tim.
Cool.
Tim's one of my teachers. He's the bomb.
Awesome.
But yeah, so we're going to play around with that. So, and of course, all the good Bitcoin stuff is going to be in there too. Well, I figure like so many people who are not Bitcoiners, they're not going to sign up for a Bitcoin newsletter. They're just not. They never will.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what if we teach people about Bitcoin in our little, sly roundabout way and get them something that they're excited about and
Yeah.
then go, oh, by the way, here's some Bitcoin content. Or if you want to get the VIP thing, you get a 50% discount if you pay in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so there's all sorts of ways that we can be educators to all these other, ecosystems of people who don't understand Bitcoin yet. So,
Yeah.
so that's my goal, is to try to help be a Bitcoin educator in a fun, sassy, playful way.
Yeah.
So,
You have to
yeah.
meet people where they are, and let's make Bitcoin cool, sexy, cool, and fun.
Totally.
I believe you're
Well,
the one who's going to do it.
we're all doing it, Martell.
Yeah.
So I love you, sister. Thank you so much. I cannot wait to give you a big old squeeze, and Madeira is going to be so much fun.
Love you
But
too, and I can't wait for it.
yeah, me too. All right, everybody, have a kick-ass day. Peace, love, and warm aloha.
Thanks
And we'll
for
talk to you
everyone
guys.
tuning in.
Yeah, totally. Thanks for tuning in. Bitcoin for Peace. Yay. All right. We're ending.